Before you rush into another day, pause for a moment. Listen. That silence you hear is not empty. It is waiting for you. There is a voice calling your name not with noise but with truth. Yet so many cannot hear it, not because the voice is weak, but because life has grown loud. Today, you will discover the 6 habits you must quit if you truly desire to hear God's voice with clarity, strength, and direction. The habit of constant noise. There is a kind of noise that follows a person everywhere, even when they believe they are in a quiet place. It is the noise that fills the mind, the noise that settles in the heart, the noise that speaks louder than peace. Many people want to hear God's voice, yet they live as though silence is their enemy. Their days begin with noise, continue with noise, and end with noise, leaving no room for the whisper of heaven to enter. The habit of constant noise is not just about loud sounds around you. It is the inner noise that grows from distractions, hurry, anxiety, and the endless streams of information that never let the soul breathe. This noise builds walls so thick that even when God speaks, the heart is too crowded to notice. Imagine a man sitting beside a river so loud that he cannot hear the gentle voice calling him from across the water. He leans forward, trying to listen, but the river keeps roaring, drowning out the call meant for him. Eventually he gives up, thinking perhaps there was no voice at all. This is what many experience in their spiritual lives. They think God is silent, but in truth, they are simply standing beside a river they refuse to step away from. Modern life has created an addiction to noise. People feel uncomfortable when things get quiet because silence forces them to face themselves. It confronts the inner battles they have avoided. Silence reveals the restlessness hiding beneath the surface, and instead of letting God heal it, they continue adding more noise to cover it up. The habit of constant noise is subtle. It hides behind entertainment, endless scrolling, background music, non-stop talking, and the belief that productivity equals worth. It becomes a lifestyle where every space must be filled with something. Yet the spiritual ear cannot function in a heart that is constantly crowded. God speaks in ways that require attention, presence, and stillness. The whisper of the divine is gentle not because it is weak, but because it invites relationship, it invites closeness. It calls the soul to come nearer, not through the energy of the world, but through the quiet of the spirit. If life is filled with noise, the invitation gets lost. There is a moment in every person's journey where they must choose whether they want to be entertained or transformed. Entertainment keeps the noise alive. Transformation requires quiet. Many people pray for guidance, yet the moment silence comes, they rush to fill it. They say they want answers, but they never give the soul enough stillness to receive them. They speak more than they listen. They think more than they reflect. They worry more than they surrender. In this state, even a clear word from heaven becomes faint. The noise becomes so familiar that they cannot imagine life without it. Picture a room filled with voices all speaking at once. If someone tries to whisper a message to you, no matter how important that whisper is, it will be lost in the crowd. This is how many live each day. They fill their minds with so many unnecessary voices that the voice that matters most gets pushed into the background. The constant flow of information creates an illusion of connection, but spiritually, it creates distance. It disconnects the heart from the one who guides, comforts, and strengthens. A noisy life can never produce a clear spiritual path. There is a sacred power in intentional silence. When a person chooses to turn off the noise, something begins to shift inside them. Their thoughts slow down. Their breathing settles. Their awareness sharpens. They begin to hear things they never noticed before, the hidden fears, the quiet desires, the longings of the heart, and the gentle stirrings of the spirit. Silence becomes a mirror, revealing what noise had buried. And when a person sees themselves clearly, they are finally able to hear God clearly. Stepping away from noise does not require leaving the world. It requires entering a different posture of the heart. It means creating space where the soul can breathe freely even in the midst of busy environment. It means choosing moments of stillness throughout the day. It means allowing the mind to rest in quiet confidence rather than restless distraction. It means treating silence not as emptiness but as holy ground. God is not hiding his voice. He is speaking in every moment, but his voice is heard best in places where the heart is not competing with 1,000 other sounds. The habit of constant noise must be released, so the spiritual ear can awaken to the gentle guidance that has been waiting all along. The habit of holding on to hidden sin. There is a weight many people carry without realizing how deeply it affects their ability to hear the voice of God. It is not the weight of circumstances, nor the weight of sorrow, nor even the weight of disappointment. It is the quiet, lingering heaviness of hidden sin, those secret habits, thoughts, desires, and actions that the heart attempts to bury while pretending nothing is wrong. Hidden sin is not always loud. It does not announce itself. It slips into the heart silently, then builds a wall so thick that even when God speaks, the message cannot pass through clearly. It becomes a veil over the spiritual ear, a fog over the spiritual vision, a chain around the spiritual walk. Many believe God has gone silent, but often it is the soul that has become too entangled to listen. Hidden sin is like dust that gathers slowly on a mirror. At first, the reflection is still visible. The person thinks everything is fine. The dust seems too thin to matter. But over time, the mirror grows cloudy, the reflection fades, and eventually, no matter how hard the person looks, they cannot see what is standing right in front of them. This is how spiritual clarity disappears. This is how the voice that once felt close begins to feel distant, not because the voice has changed, but because the heart has allowed something else to cloud it. Hidden sin does not silence God, it silences you. Imagine someone trying to hear a gentle whisper while pressing both hands over their ears. The whisper is real, present, and near. But the person has blocked it with their own actions. Hidden sin works the same way. It becomes a barrier created by the choices of the heart. It is not merely the act of sin, but the attachment to it. The attempt to keep it hidden, the refusal to confront it, the fear of letting it go, that creates the loudest spiritual interference. The more a person hides, the harder it becomes to hear. The more a person protects their sin, the more they lose their protection from spiritual deception. Hidden sin grows strongest in darkness. It becomes comfortable where there is no confession, no honesty, no openness. A person can continue praying, reading, speaking, even teaching. Yet deep within, there remains a quiet distance they cannot explain. The connection feels weaker. The passion feels dimmer. The clarity feels missing. That missing clarity often has a name, something the heart has locked away, refusing to bring it into the light. The longer it stays hidden, the louder it becomes. It fills the silence. It fills the mind. It fills the spiritual space where God's voice is meant to dwell. Picture a man who wants fresh air but refuses to open the window because he is ashamed of the mess inside his room. The longer he keeps the window shut, the more suffocated the room becomes. But he continues sitting there, wondering why the air feels heavy. Hidden sin works the same way. A person longs for a spiritual breath, longs for clarity, longs for direction, but keeps the window of the soul closed because they fear exposure. They fear that revealing the hidden sin will reveal their weakness. They fear judgment. They fear confronting who they have become. Yet without opening that window, the soul remains suffocated and the voice of God remains distant. Hidden sin also distorts spiritual hearing, twists perception. It causes a person to hear through the filter of guilt, shame, and fear. Even when God speaks comfort, the heart hears condemnation. Even when God speaks direction, the heart hears confusion. Even when God speaks love, the heart hears unworthiness. The message becomes distorted because the heart is distorted. The voice becomes unclear because the listener is conflicted. A divided heart cannot receive an undivided truth. There is a moment in every person's spiritual journey when truth demands to be faced. It is not a harsh confrontation, but a loving invitation. It is the gentle knocking on the door of the heart, asking for honesty, asking for surrender, asking for the mask to be removed. Hidden sin loses its power the moment it is brought into the light, not because the sin becomes small, but because light reveals that grace has been waiting all along. A heart that comes into the light becomes open again. A heart that confesses becomes clear again. A heart that releases what it has been hiding becomes spiritually sensitive again. Letting go of hidden sin does not mean becoming perfect. It means becoming honest. It means choosing truth over secrecy. It means choosing openness over fear. It means choosing spiritual clarity over temporary pleasure. When a person stops hiding, the walls begin to fall. When the walls fall, the fog begins to lift. When the fog lifts, the whisper becomes clear. The voice that once seemed distant begins to sound close again. The guidance that felt lost becomes steady again. The relationship that felt strained becomes alive again. A heart free from hidden sin becomes a heart capable of spiritual hearing. And in that hearing, a new level of closeness is found, the habit of trusting your feelings more than God's truth. There is a quiet deception that many people fall into without noticing. It is not the deception of darkness, nor the deception of pride, nor the deception of ignorance. It is the subtle and convincing belief that feelings are the most reliable guide for life. Feelings are powerful, but they are not stable. They rise and fall like waves. They shift with circumstances. They react to pressure. They change with mood. When a person begins to rely on their emotions more than divine truth, their spiritual hearing weakens. The voice of God becomes harder to recognize because emotions speak loudly, while truth speaks steadily. Feelings may shout, but truth stands firm. And many cannot hear God simply because their emotions speak over him. Imagine a traveler walking through a vast desert, holding a compass that always points true, but instead of following the compass, the traveler decides to follow the direction of the wind. The wind feels refreshing and strong, and so the traveler trusts it. But the wind does not know where it is going. It shifts without purpose. It moves without destination. Following it leads the traveler in circles, always wandering, never arriving. This is how life becomes when feelings take the place of divine truth. People begin to drift spiritually. They make decisions based on emotion rather than wisdom. They follow impulses that feel right but lead them into confusion. And when confusion comes, they believe God is silent, not realizing it was their emotions that changed direction, not God's truth. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable. A person can feel fearful even when nothing is threatening them. A person can feel lonely even when surrounded by love. A person can feel angry even when they are the ones who need forgiveness. Feelings respond to perception, not always reality. When emotions rule the heart, spiritual clarity becomes clouded. The heart hears its own voice louder than the voice of God. It becomes difficult to discern whether the inner voice is guidance from heaven or simply the echo of personal desire. People begin to confuse divine leading with emotional comfort. They stop listening for truth and start searching for agreement. They hear only what supports their feelings and ignore what challenges them. In this state, the spiritual ear becomes dull. There are moments when the truth of God will guide a person in a direction that does not feel easy. Truth may call them to forgive when feelings demand revenge. Truth may call them to have faith when feelings insist on fear. Truth may call them to let go when feelings cling tightly. Truth may call them to wait when feelings rush ahead. If a person trusts feelings more than spiritual truth, they will resist the very guidance meant to protect them. They will step outside of alignment and then wonder why clarity disappears. The issue is not that God stopped speaking, it is that the heart stopped obeying. Consider a child who tries to build a house in the sand. Each time they build, the next wave washes it away. They try again, and again it collapses. Their effort is real, but the foundation is unstable. A life built on emotions works the same way. It constantly must be rebuilt because emotions shift so quickly. But a life built on truth stands firm even when storms come. A person who anchors themselves in truth begins to experience clarity that emotions cannot shake. The spiritual ear becomes more precise because it is not being pulled in different directions by temporary feelings. There is a gentle wisdom in realizing that emotions are meant to be felt but not followed. They reveal the condition of the heart, but they are not meant to lead the heart. Truth is the guide. Truth does not change with mood. It does not weaken under pressure. It does not bend in fear. It does not break under sorrow. It stands steady, offering direction even when the heart feels overwhelmed. When a person begins to trust truth above feelings, they develop a spiritual sensitivity that grows sharper with time. They begin to recognize the voice of God not because it always feels comfortable, but because it aligns with wisdom, peace, and righteousness. There is strength in choosing truth when emotions try to take control. It requires humility to acknowledge that feelings are not always right. It requires discipline to pause, reflect, and listen rather than react impulsively. It requires faith to follow a voice that leads upward when emotions want to stay where it is safe. But once a person learns to elevate truth above feelings, their entire spiritual journey changes. Confusion lifts, fear lessens, decision-making becomes clearer. Guidance becomes recognizable. The whisper of God becomes distinguishable from the noise of emotion. Feelings may try to guide you one way, but truth will always guide you the right way. When truth becomes the anchor, the heart becomes stable. When the heart stabilizes, the spiritual ear opens. And when the spiritual ear opens, the voice of God is heard with clarity, direction, and confidence that emotions can never provide.